The Lost Planet franchise looked to be a hit for Capcom early this generation. The frozen wastelands of EDN 3 was populated by factions of wild at heart snow pirates clashing with aliens. Some clunky controls and forgettable narratives left the previous games with a cult following. With a new developer and a host of tweaks, Lost Planet 3 poises itself to leave gamers moonstruck. Does it deliver, or will it be gone in 60 seconds from your game collection? Long before the wars seen in Lost Planet 1 and 2, EDN 3 was a more peaceful rock, devoid of the warring factions that gamers associated with. With a greater focus on the narrative than its predecessors, Lost Planet 3 proves to be somewhat memorable. Following the exploits of Jim Payton, a man hired on by Neo Venice Construction Company to mine the minerals from the planet using a self-constructed rig, a tale of survival and prosperity is told amidst the threat of harsh weather and an alien threat known as the Acrid. Shortly after making it to base, Jim quickly makes a name for himself among the colonists. No task is too tough for Jim, and his ability to befriend those around him makes him a likable protagonist. What drives Jim forward is his wife and newborn son. Through video messages, his interaction with his wife shows a man with depth that will be completely foreign to those who played the other games in the franchise. Jim is an everyman, not the Lord of War found in most games. He works solely to pay his bills and make it back to his family.
Keep sending, okay? Remind me why I'm out here doing this. I miss you.
Much of the early game is spent completing repetitive tasks, and while they are less than invigorating, the cast is developed during this period. In time, the game's plot moves forward and opens up the mysteries that lie within the shadows of EDN 3. Though the major plot twist isn't as accomplished as something you'd find in an O. Henry short, it manages to strengthen the player's resolve to move forward with the game. The rest is entirely predictable. If you wanted an origin story that explains the battles between factions, you'll get it, but don't expect much. Lost Planet 3's core plot doesn't impress, but its characters make the experience much more enriching.
I promise you won't be sorry.
Let go of my hand.
Okay.
Under the reins of a new developer, Lost Planet 3's gameplay has gone through some renovations. Spark Unlimited has utilized the Unreal Engine, featuring a very recognizable third-person cover-based system. Your arsenal consists of the usual gear: assault rifles, shotguns, and a variation of few with attainable ammo alternatives. The large rockets and Gatling guns are removed for more realistic sized weapons, and the grapple gun reappears with less use throughout the campaign. Replacing the vital suits, rigs are the mechanical monsters of this time. Handled in a first-person perspective, the rigs are the most significant change from the previous games. Prohibited from weapon upgrades, the rigs were specifically engineered for mining. Throughout the campaign, upgrades are available, using specialty parts found around the world or picked up during quests, providing simple enhancements. Rig-based combat is not that enjoyable, maneuverability is slow, attacks limited, and quite frankly, boring. You'll find yourself exiting the machines more than often to face off with the Acrid. At times doing so isn't possible, resulting in immense frustration as your mech lumbers around the battlefield. Level design within Lost Planet 3 has an open world feel to it. The player is able to roam the world, completing tasks, drilling, and extracting thermal energy via T-posts. Fast travel becomes available once a new area is visited, making it easier to complete side missions located across the icy terrain. Once on foot, levels become very linear with minor backtracking. Throughout the land, you'll find unreachable places that are accessible once the required tool is unlocked. For the most part, these areas only offer specialty parts and thermal energy. Specialty parts are purchasable through merchants, and once you have the tools necessary to reach these out-of-the-way places, it generally isn't worth the time to do it. Visually, you'd expect the icy planet to become dull and boring, but surprisingly it doesn't. The constant weather changes and the variation of land keeps it from doing so. The Unreal Engine holds up for the setting. The specularity and gloss gives the icy terrain a realistic look. The storms that engulf the land are spectacles, making great use of the particle effects within the engine. The indoor levels also look great, reminiscent to the corridors seen in the Alien films and games such as Dead Space. Character models don't fare too well though. They look flat and the amount of facial features are lacking. Some look extremely glossy, while others are void of any form of expression other than mouth movement. The Aquid aren't so exciting either. With little variation, having to fight an excessive amount of the same creature quickly becomes dull. Boss battles also suffer from the endless recycling of enemy types. Sound design is average, with some notable high points. On your rig, a multitude of stations are selectable and offer a fair amount of catchy country tunes, similar to shows like Firefly with the Space Cowboy theme. At times, the audio combined with the dark atmosphere generate the needed effect to elicit fear and tension. These moments are short-lived, but are definitely the high notes in Lost Planet 3. Vocal work is at its best in the series. Actors express the necessary amount of emotion without sounding out of place. Some dialogue may seem overly exuberant, but it ultimately adds a needed dose of personality to the cast. Ditching the co-op introduced in Lost Planet 2, the multiplayer sticks to its competitive roots. The most notable change comes through the upgrade system, which is linked to your rank. Unlocking a new weapon or perk increases your rank. The system is designed to give the players control over their build. Unfortunately, the mediocre and uninspired design of the multiplayer will do little to hold your attention long enough to move through the ranks. More than often, you'll find yourself competing against higher ranked players, giving you an extreme disadvantage. Certain modes show a spark of originality, but fall flat. Don't expect to find your next big multiplayer time sink in Lost Planet 3. Ultimately, it's just a rehash of what many other third-person shooters on the market already offer. The steps taken to rehabilitate the Lost Planet franchise are definitely in the right direction, but the many flaws that plague the game do enough to tarnish the experience as a whole. With dumb AI that only works in masses, boring rehashing of bosses, and a tacked-on multiplayer leaves Lost Planet 3 in a very similar spot as its predecessors. Still, the forward progress made in the third entry is large enough to make a fourth entry worth keeping an eye on, should it come to be. If you're looking for strong characters and have already burned through the scores of other third-person shooters on the market, Lost Planet 3 may be worth your time. Just be sure to grab a coat. The weatherman says it's going to be a cold one.